Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
It's working, bro.
Hello,
Working.
guys. Yep. Good evening, everyone.
It is working. How are you, my man?
Doing fine, doing fine. Today's a beautiful day, Thursday, the 28th January. Can't get any better. I mean, the weather was kind of overcast.
Off and on.
Wasn't the best today, but we could be 150-degree weather like the Mojave Desert, and then still grumbling. So we take what we can, right?
Oh, 20 below.
Yeah, or 20
They're
below.
shoveling your driveway. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So if 20 below, you don't need to worry about finding one special freezer for the vaccination. Just walk around with it. You saw the
Yeah,
people they got stuck and they had the vaccination. They decided
yeah.
to vaccine people. I thought that was kind of cute. Yeah.
That's what it is, though. It's a community coming together, man. That's just kind of what it is, man. That's kind of
Mhm.
it's what it is, and I know our show is critical of some of the things that goes on. I know the our show sometimes, and I haven't heard it in a while about the fear mongering because a lot of the fear mongering that we talked about came true. So I'm not hearing that as much. But I just want, and I know our viewers know this, but I did want to say, and you've referenced it a few times in the last few weeks that the intent here is really to inform and educate. There is definitely no malicious intent. There is definitely no political intent. There is none of that. This is gathering information for 23 hours of the day, and on the 24th hour, which is 7 o'clock every night, we share what we've learned, and that's the whole motive. That's the reason, the purpose. We try to stack our guests with interesting and informative and factual people. I know I had a message, a private message today about unemployment. We have tried to get people from the unemployment office on our show.
Difficult.
Uh,
Very
we
difficult.
cannot control them. So but we have the Senate president tonight, which I have a list of questions that I'm going to ask, and that is actually one of the questions that I want to, because we have people still that have not gotten paid and
Mm.
are wondering what next. They cannot get a call back. So I will definitely be posing that question in addition to a few others. But the primary reason for his visit tonight is to discuss the governor's State of the State address, which was held a few days ago. And then of course, Ron is always open to questions. So I'm looking
Well,
forward to a very informative evening tonight.
what I do want to say is, I think I've gotten to the point that I think everybody is pretty much acclimated, pretty much educated, and I'm not saying that, I'm far from even thinking about throwing in the towel. But what I am saying is like, we'll bring it out, we leave it there, and we just step back and observe. Because I did put a post out today. You put something out, somebody wasn't so kind. I mean, I don't know why, but I love that. I love pressing that block button, boy. It's just like playing one Nintendo game. Here it comes, boosh, stuff like that. I just said, hey, well, whatever. And everybody can, even if it's simple things. I'm not saying that I'm a doctor, but I think I've read enough and heard enough to know what direction they're pointing us into. And all I said was, this virus is just going haywire. And it's funny. It's really funny. Everybody said, this happens all the time. This happens all the time. So then I want to know this then. Why is it only happening now? You know, when COVID first came on the scene, could have happened in 1988. Why was it? Because a certain medium rare bat wasn't cooked properly. That's why the bugger went trigger. You know what I mean? I mean, this those kind of things is what it is what bug. It's not bugs me, but it make me wonder. I said, why did it pick 2019? It could have go haywire in 2018. Why was it 19? Was it because the moons aligned? And that's why I said, okay, let it go.
Yeah, you know, I think we got to accept the fact that we are part of history now. You know, we are all part of history. What we're going through in this world is going to be in the history books. Remember when you went to school and they talked about the pandemics from so long ago? Well, we're
Well,
living that now. We're
I'm
living that.
sorry. I'm sorry. I went to school, but I just goofed off. So I
Yeah,
completely missed that class. That's why I'm clueless.
yeah. I think I agree with you, but we are in a time where it's unlike any other that any of us can remember, and why, for the life of me, I cannot understand why we cannot all come together and just lay the facts on the table, lay the facts on the table, and let the science and the experts guide the direction. And I think for the most part, that was always the intent. But when you have the special interest that gets in the way, and then
Right.
you trying to justify this balance, but the balance goes against the balance that they perceive to be a balance goes against science and goes against the medical world, and they keep trying to validate their balance or their so-called balance. And I think that's the frustration, because when you read or you listen to experts, um, we don't bring conspiracy theorists on the show for that reason, because it's not fact-based, it's based on conspiracy.
Right.
So from all the people we've brought on the show from day one, they come with some level of expertise that we share. And I think it's hard for us and many of our viewers to grasp that. Why don't they get it? Why
Mhm.
don't they get it? Why are we continuing down this road that could lead us to some serious problems? And I'm glad the Senate president is on tonight, because there's some actions being created in the legislature by certain legislators that to me I think could be detrimental to especially us here in Kauai. Why are they going down that road when everything is, there are so many unknowns yet as it relates to this virus every single day. Now they found the South African variant in the United States.
Yep.
Well, we knew it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So we got to prepare for that. We need to prepare for that. And so that's
But let me ask you the $1 million question. How is it possible that a name is given like the South African variant, right? And yet it shows up in the United States, and some people think it's going to pop up no matter where. Then wherever it pops up, it should be called the South Carolina variant,
yeah.
but they call it the South African variant. So had to have been a kid from South Africa. No, it's going to pop up. That's when I go, holy schmoly.
You know what is so interesting, Charlie, and we consciously stay away from politics on this show, but I gotta say, when the former president mentioned the China virus, everybody went ballistic. Everybody went nuts. But now you get the UK variant, you get the South African variant, and all of a sudden it's okay.
And
So
that's why I said if it's not in Hawaii, we're going to have the luau variant, where the thing will make you possibly low,
the
low.
luau, they're gonna call
Yeah,
them the luau variant. Yeah.
luau variant.
Anyway, let's bring the senator in. He's been patiently waiting in the waiting room. I gotta tell you, man. My wife has this diffuser. She got a diffuser for, I think, for Christmas.
Right.
Someone gave her a diffuser. You know that stuff that spews out this steam.
Yeah.
And what
It's
she did
good.
was she took my daughter's essence. You know the essence that my daughter sells in Oregon,
Yeah.
and she used that in the thing. And I have it right here, and it changes colors. And at night we just turn
Yeah.
off the light, and it goes from blue to pink to red. But that essence is
Very calming.
phenomenal. And it's very calming, as you can tell. Um,
I got this diffuser that it changes several colors, and it comes with a case of Bud Light, and it's very calming. It will become calming. Let me tell
yeah,
you.
that works. That works too. Oh,
There he is.
oh,
Yay.
look,
Oh,
bro.
is
Is
that
that a
is that
surfboard you guys are around, or is that just the optics of the? of the
Just a
camera.
big conference table.
That
Okay.
looks like the surfboard Charlie and I, when Charlie and I used to go surfing when we were young, that looks like his surfboard.
Well, Mel, to be honest with you, I was tired of getting off the Mel and Charlie show and having Joy beat me up about what I never have in the right place. How come I didn't clean this up? So I just stayed in my office. And then I found out I got other kind of riffraff walking in that is not hanging on the couch and my wife would complain about.
Oh, I thought he said I was a remora. Remora once before, but now I'm riffraff today.
Yeah, it's the politically correct term is remora, but you know, Kochi is not always politically correct, so he's calling it.
Anyway,
Anyway.
ladies and gentlemen, we are so fortunate enough to have Senate President Ronald Kouchi joining us tonight on the Mel and Charlie Show, along with his special guest, representative from the 15th district,
Yes, sir.
representative district for the island of Kauai, Representative James Tokioka. So thank you for joining us, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a surprise. That is a surprise, and I'm very happy that the both of you are on tonight. So,
Yeah.
you know, again, we thank you guys for you guys' work up there. And like I explained before you guys came on, that the focus of tonight's show, at least the beginning, I know we do have some questions, but the first part, Ron, we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to share your insights on the governor's State of the State address, which was held a few days ago, and give you guys an opportunity to share, educate us, and give us your insight on what's going on and what's happening.
Well, actually, the timing of the program is good. And I know Charlie had asked me last week, and I said it wouldn't be useful until after the governor's State of the State. You know, I was disappointed. I was hoping for more specific detail, then go look at the bills I introduced. But he did talk about, you know, Hawaii 2.0, how do we reset, and in particular, broadband. I went on a broadband Hui call of my first Zoom invitation, didn't even know what it was, had to call my staff to figure out how to download Zoom and, you know, get into it. But that's when I was doing my 14-day quarantine. So at that point, I had nothing else to do and wanted to do something productive. So I jumped on. There were only 15 of us today, and we've had one every single week. I've at least been able to be on every single call, some for a little while before another meeting comes on. But we have people from the state government, we've had county government, private sector, University of Hawaii telemedicine. People are on the call. We've got people from the mainland, you know, who participate. And so it's up to 60 people on the call every week. So there's a lot of work that has already gone into where we need to be with broadband and expanding our capability. And we're hopeful with, you know, the control of the Senate by the Democrats now. Senator Schatz is in a strategic position on the technology and broadband end of it. And for what we need to do here in Hawaii, we really need help from the federal government financially, because it's such a heavy lift. And, you know, the governor did talk about, you know, Ed Sniffen and DOT, and we were quite surprised that DOT would be leading this instead of, you know, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Senator English sent a text to Deputy Director Sniffen, you know, to give him a call, and Senator English happened to be in my office when he received the call. And so Ed Sniffen has 6 programs ready to go and be done within the next 6 months. One of them happens to be in Kapa'a, and one happens to be working with Hawaiian Telecom and getting connectivity out to HANA. So it's looking in rural areas. And Ed Sniffen was able to make the case to the federal partners in federal highways that they need to deploy the connectivity because of the autonomous vehicles rolling out. And so in preparing for that, we're going to be able to bring connectivity, to our rural areas. Stacy Aldrich is the head of the state library system. All of the libraries have increased Wi-Fi capability. And with the CARES money, I forgot exactly how many new tablets they got for every single library in the state, but they're between 8 or 12, realizing that the demand would be there. If you want to testify remotely at the legislative hearings that are about to start, you can, if you don't have a computer and you don't have that access, you can go to your local public library and they will assist you in what you need to do. You can call your representative's office or your senator's office. So we have a new process where you need to log on and you need to go into the portal. So you just don't send your testimony to me. There's a portal that it needs to go into. And then if you want to speak remotely, you sign up and then you'll get the login information to get onto the Zoom link to be able to do the testimony. So that's one of the areas. And obviously we've all seen the reports about how home sales have been spiking. People are buying homes sight unseen. They're relocating to Hawaii to work remotely. It's not a phenomenon unique to Hawaii. My sister lives in Boise, Idaho. There are articles in the Boise newspaper about the amount of people moving to Idaho. Montana has seen a large spike, but in general across the country, people in the congested urban areas are moving out to rural areas, and the connectivity is important. You would envision your days at the Kauai County Council and its term in managing the employees, and when you need it more, then you put another partition. Then you put another partition and you have people who are on top of each other. And so we have, our majority attorney's office, the Legislative Reference Bureau, where we can achieve the 6-foot spacing for best practices. So they're working remotely in a rotation of who comes in, who comes out, and the connectivity is important for that. Obviously for our students in the distance learning, and even as we try to get back into the classroom, as long as 6 foot is the standard, we need to rotate who can be in person and who has to be remote. We can't accommodate everybody. And lastly, in the area of telemedicine, now it's become the new normal. It should get the cost of medical services or the delivery should be reduced. And, we want to make sure that everybody has equal access. And I'll kind of stop there and let Jimmy talk about a few things that, he's been working on.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to touch and Jimmy, get your feedback as well. In the governor's state of the state, for me anyway, and I'm not a political analyst, but I heard a few on the news speak, and I agree with them that in fact, it didn't have the substance. And for me, it sounded like an inauguration speech. When you newly elected mayor or a governor and you want to lay out your vision for the state or for the county, that's what I heard. Unlike a state of the state, which we're so used to hearing, where it's specifics. It's where are we and what are we going to do to get to where we need to be. That was obviously absent or missing. So I kind of wanted to figure out if was your take as well, Jimmy, that in fact it lacked the substance. It was a lot of vision, and it was a nice speech. It was a good one, but it wasn't your typical state of the state. What's your take on that?
I agree with most of that, Mel. I will also say though that to be the mayor right now, to be the governor right now, is a tough place for anyone to be because nobody expected that. But in the state of the state, I don't think there was enough details as to helping people to understand this is where we are and this is where we're going. and this is why. So I did get a lot of calls and emails and texts about, oh, these things weren't answered. You know, we want to know more about specific ideas about what you guys are doing. And I said, you know, the legislative process is totally separate from the administrative process. But, you know, to come out, I think, and I don't even know if he referred to it as a revenue enhancement, but I think he talked about the sugar tax. And I know that he knows that it didn't pass in the legislature when Governor Abercrombie was going to push a sugar tax. So, you know, it just leaves the question to be that, you know, what is the legislature going to do? And so that process is going to take a while before we get to the budget. But there were not enough details for me as well. But I know that no matter what choice Mayor Kawakami makes, or Governor Abercrombie makes, or the legislature makes, we don't have too many good choices. So I can understand from that standpoint, but I thought we would have more definitive direction on what was happening, or what was the administration's direction, I should say. But one of the things that, you know, and Ron, Senate President Kouchi talked to me today, and, you know, I'm fortunate, and as you know, Mel, Ron and I and you, we worked well together when we worked together. So when he told me he was going to be on the show tonight, I had received a lot of emails from constituents about the auditor, Les Condo. And what was kind of funny to me as I thought about this is I remember you in the email and me and Ron at different times on the county council having pulling our hair with Les Condo when he was at OIP. But since he's been appointed to the auditor's position, and even before that, his work is thorough. His work is very thorough. So to me, when I saw a memo to the House members that we were gonna put together a team to audit the auditors without anybody from the Senate being on this team, I thought it was just a little awkward. But I do, you know, I'm not always agreed with Les Condo's opinions, but I respected it because he does his homework. And for people in Kauai who don't know, there's someone who was working at BCCA. Her name is Daria Goto, and the whole time in the 14 years that I've been up here, I've worked with her in different capacities. Very, very, very thorough, and he brought her in to be his deputy, and she does a great job. So he's got a great team over there. I don't understand what the concerns were with Scott Saiki, but if people that asked me, that emailed after they saw your show, I told them that I would not support anything that would reduce funding to the auditor's office if it was an individual bill. You know, some of the things that happen over here is they could put it in the budget, and if you can't ad seriato vote something out, you got to vote for the whole thing. So, you know, hopefully we'll see what happens as we go through the process. But I just wanted to share that with your viewers because there was probably about 15 or 20 that reached out to me to ask me what my opinion was. And so again, thank you guys for you know, reaching out, getting people on your show to explain what's happening over here. And whether, you know, Mel, I don't know if you shared your thoughts with Les when he was on the show, but I know that you and I disagreed with him on particular things when he was at OIP. So, you know, I just respect the guy because he's thorough.
Yeah, you know, we had Les on our show, and he reminded me that I sued him when I was on the council. I had forgotten about that. The council had sued him. But anyway, he is coming on our show on Tuesday. He will be on our show on Tuesday to share his. And let me just tell you what my perception is. And I don't know much. All I know is that he's a hell of an auditor. He has an amazing team. And I heard Ron on the Civil Beat article today. Senate President Kouchi was on a thing with House Speaker Saiki with the Civil Beat, and appreciated your comments, Ron. And I'll let you share your comments. But I really felt a whole lot better, and I feel even a whole lot better now that I hear from you, Jimmy. But one thing that Les Kondo is he, as you said, he's very thorough and he's very accurate. So he'll be on our show on Tuesday. So hopefully you guys can tune in. But I
He
know
came.
maybe Ron wants to share what he told Civil Beat today.
Well, one second before I do that, really, Jimmy, when he heard I was on, said with the amount of communications, he wanted to come and say that, but he's got to get going. So I'll let Jimmy Aloha cut right in front of me in a rude way because there's no polite way to exit, and then I'll be happy to share the story.
But Mel and Charlie, thank you for letting me drop in, and thank you for all you do. I know how well watched your show is, and every time there's a controversial issue that deals with the legislature, I get the email. So thank you for educating, communicating, and being transparent about the things that happen here and the things that we need to understand from your viewers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
So I'll be happy to share what I had said about the auditor, which is a little bit longer story, but I guess that's the case when I start telling stories. I'm a disciple of the Charlie Iona school of, short story long. And so here it goes. There are 4 attached agencies that the Speaker and the Senate President oversee. One is the Ethics Commission, which Les Kondo was in charge of after OIP. Dan Gluck is there now, and the executive director is selected by the board, and so the Speaker and the Senate President don't have any say, so that the ethics director can work in an independent way. The auditor, the ombudsman, and the head of the Legislative Reference Bureau are all selected by the Speaker and the President, but we make the recommendations. To get confirmed, you need to have a vote of a joint session of the House and Senate. So for many years, they could not get an agreement between the House and the Senate on giving them permanency. In the case of the ombudsman and the head of the Legislative Reference Bureau, a formal vote is a 6-year term. In the case of the auditor, to try to create independence, it's an 8-year term. So when I became president in 2015, Speaker Suki approached me. Robin Matsunaga, the ombudsman, had worked for him when he was the finance chairman years ago, and Speaker Suki had great confidence and respect for the job Robin was doing as the ombudsman, and felt strongly that Robin should be confirmed in a joint session of the House and Senate. He and I were incredibly happy with the work Charlotte Carter Yamauchi was doing as the head of the LRB. And we had just lost the auditor, Jan Yamani, who had succeeded Marian Higa, so the auditor's position was vacant. And I told the Speaker, so if you're pushing for Robin, we agree on Charlotte, are you telling me that I can nominate the auditor? And, Speaker Suki did. And, I chose Les Kondo, and I thought Les would be outstanding in that role as the auditor based on the work he had done at the Ethics Commission. I did share with the Civil Beat reader or viewers that I got cited by Les Kondo when he was on the Ethics Commission because I used my allowance to dry clean my jackets. And I said, even though I'm required by the rules of the Senate to wear a coat and tie on the floor Monday through Thursday, I didn't want to go argue with Les Kondo. I just said I will now pay for my dry cleaning out of my pocket, and that'll be a personal expense, no arguments from me. So it's not like he did me favors or he never wrote me up when he was on the in charge of ethics. But in spite of that, I look for the best person. So I nominated Les. I have great confidence in Les, and we'll see what the Speaker's reports say. But you notice it's not a joint investigative committee, and there aren't any of those bills introduced on the Senate side. And so, we'll see what happens. And I watched the show the last time Les was on, and most of your viewers didn't even know what the auditor did, what the mission of the auditor was. He did a great job in explaining, what he does and what the mission of the office is. And I know he was well reviewed in the comment section when he appeared on the show. Mel, you're still on mute.
Sorry about that. One of the things that baffles me is the attempt by the House Speaker and to reduce the salary of the auditor's office by 50%, which would
Not the salary, but the budget, but it's mostly salaries.
The budget. Thank you. The budget of the office at 50%, which would decrease the efficiency of the office by 50%, which would mean that while you're evaluating the auditor or the office of the auditor and you reduce their budget, you want them to fail. And I think that's not fair. I just think that's not fair.
Yeah, but moving back to the economy, they are, what they're looking for is a couple of legislative liaisons from each body. And so for the House, they will have Majority Leader Belatti and Representative Ichiyama, who's the COVID-19 committee chair in the House, as the liaisons. And on our side, Senator Kaeho Kaloli is the health chair, so a lot of the COVID things will be going through his committee, and Senator English is the majority leader on our side. So they'll be the two assigned liaisons, but we're gonna have breakout committees on affordable housing and homelessness, education and workforce development, K through higher education, early childhood education, broadcasts and telecommunications, cost of living, infrastructure, culture and way of life, affordable housing. I said that economic development, we have overall market analysis, tourism and hospitality, energy and sustainability, agriculture and food supply, military and defense, real estate and construction, science, technology and innovation. So we'll have the various committee chairs from both houses serving in these breakout committees, and they will be reaching out to have administrative partners as well as private sector partners, and then certainly where appropriate, partners with the county. One of the things I talked to the governor about when he asked me to be co-chair with Speaker Saiki and himself on this is, I said, it's critical to have the managing director, the planning director for the county, but somebody involved in permitting. If we've made a commitment to the capital improvement budget, and we have projects that are going through, and right now we're getting or have gotten 6 Department of Education projects issued permits through the County of Kauai. So it's going to upgrade the facilities for our students and teachers, while at the same time infuse economic development in our community with that construction spending. But we need the permits to move in each of the counties. And then a lot of times we've had a difficult time filling the position in the State Office of Historic Preservation. So we've had our share of slowing some of the permits down as well. So we need the state and the county people in with the private sector developers or contractors to figure out how we can get the permitting system done so we're not shortchanging environmental concerns, that we've got the proper reviews in place, but we can do it in a timely way so that we can get the benefit of the project and the benefit of the economic development that comes along in the construction of the project.
Ron, I wanted to ask you, last night we had our guest, John DeFries, on with us last night. And it was I would have to say it was very eye-opening. And one thing he said is that with regards to all the different, speaking of COVID, the different West Coast segments, the markets that usually come to Hawaii, are basically under attack with COVID. So there hasn't been that much traveling going on. So I wanted to get your take on, that, as well as, I guess I read where HTA was looking at its budget being reduced as well. Can you comment on that?
Well, their current budget was already reduced because of what's happened, and everybody's budget is reduced because of what's happened. In the current fiscal year, we're projected to reduce our budget by about $850,000. And our budget is a little over 10 million, so we've got almost a 9% reduction. And we decided that to serve constituents, we need our employees here 5 days a week and 52 weeks a year. So we've cut the amount of money that we use for session staff. And we've had our majority attorneys working with a couple vacant positions that they can't fill. The clerk's office can't fill. Each legislator by statute is given an allowance, and that was also where legislators would use the money for conferences if they wanted to attend conferences. We don't have a travel budget in the Senate for conferences and things of that nature. And I've asked each member to make sure that they do not spend all of their allowance. They have a percentage that they need to return. And of course, there was zero travel for the last year, and our allowance goes from the opening day of session till the next opening day. And so last week, Tuesday on the 19th, I returned about $10,500, $11,000 of my little over $13,000 allowance. What we would do sometimes too, the Kauai delegation is the only one that does it. If the seniors come up or developmental disabilities day, we all still put our money together and provide, whether it's a bento lunch or a breakfast, and meet and listen to the issues that way. But with none of those things occurring, I am being conscious of trying to return money. I made sure that I returned it. So everybody's in the same boat. And our suggested budget for whether it was the auditor for ethics, Legislative Reference Bureau and the Ombudsman was a hard 5% cut. But with a 5% cut, it would not result in anyone being laid off. At 20%, 50%, people would start losing their jobs to make cuts of that level. And that's not something we've asked of the administration yet. And we've worked with vacant positions and freezing them so that as we start to shrink the size of the state government, it's not at the expense of somebody who's currently working.
We know it's going to be tough for the state as well as for the counties, and it's going to be a tough road. I do have a couple of COVID questions, but I'm going to save that because I did want to ask you a little bit about the unemployment situation. I had a message today. Someone's been waiting 6 weeks. They can't get a call back. And when I respond to them, I will say to email your office because that's what works quite well. But any insights on what's happening with unemployment, with the changes, additional funding? Is there still problems, logistical problems that's holding up payments to people?
Yes, the verification process in some instances has proven to be problematic, and we've tried, but unfortunately in some that we've tried to help, I've gotten the email, thank you, I know your office has been in touch with me, but I've not heard anything yet, and we just keep working at it. The real challenge and difficulty though is every time the federal government adds something on and then there's a break, it creates the need for a brand new system to be put in place to deploy the money. So when they had the $600 plus up, it took a while, but when we got the system in place, those fortunate enough to get it all done correctly. So it all moved seamlessly. And then when they put the ad on, what they said is they were going to use unexpended money, from another program. And so that 300 a week plus up that we had, like an extra 6 weeks or 2 months, was within the same system. So it was seamless. When we passed the bill to say you'd have $100 a week plus up, they could not reconfigure the system and get the money out in time for everybody to get paid, and it would have reverted to the unemployment insurance fund. That's where the idea for the Hawaii restaurant card came in. And that restaurant card then could go to everybody that should have gotten some of that plus up, and the money was deployed that way. What was significant about President Trump delaying the signing of the stimulus bill is that then it created that lag, and now they're putting the system in place. And I just asked the governor this past Tuesday when we met, when is the payment going out? I'm getting emails and questions, and he said, I'll get an answer back to you. I've not received one yet, but that means that that 300 a week that was passed is still not being deployed. And then the last part on that PUC, some of the stuff ran out in the legislation, and so they needed to get the new legislation that extended the benefit. But that, that's why they kept saying, why is the president waiting to sign that stimulus bill? Because so many people were going to be adversely affected until all of the local jurisdictions could get all of those things into place. And that delay has been really catastrophic for people waiting to get help they so badly need.
I did want to add in real quick because my mother-in-law just got her stimulus check, and it was in the form of a debit card. And I know I saw some posts and I saw some news, but I don't know what the feds were thinking, the Department of the Treasury, because we all get junk mail. You all get junk mail with that fake credit card that looks real, and this is exactly what it looks like. And my mother-in-law, thank God, Patsy opened up the mail and she showed it to me. And I initially thought it was a scam, thought it was a bogus card, until I did some research and found out that it was legitimate. So my message is to all of you: if you get that envelope, the kupuna gets that envelope that looks like a fake credit card offer, that is your stimulus check. That is your stimulus money. It's embedded in that debit card. It's $600. Very simple to activate. It's almost dangerous, but that's what it is. And if you lose that card, you lose your money. So
and actually, what frightens me too is, certainly you see those videos where people are stealing the mail, going through and looking to get it. So if it's easy to activate, I didn't get one, so I didn't know what the process is or anything else. But wow, that's frightening to hear.
We just got it. I honestly, because we get a lot of junk. Everybody does, and my mother-in-law is 80 plus years old, gets them. So we just screen her mail. And when Patsy gave it to me, I said, no, that's just. And then as I read, and sure enough, so and yeah, you do need your last four of your social security number to activate it, but that's all you need. And
I know a lot of material just shows the last four with all X's, so that's the one that pops up.
And so it would make more sense to give for them to ask you the first 5 digits of your social
the first
security.
3.
Yeah, well, in Hawaii, 575, 576. But I mean, I don't know why they did that. It's they had to contract with a bank to manage and administer those cards, which to me would have costed more money than just sending a check. But anyway, I just want to make that message announcement, because many of you or your moms and dads or grandmas and grandpas are getting those in the mail. Don't throw it away, because that's your stimulus. So anyway, sorry for the interjection.
Very helpful information.
The other thing, we get back to COVID a little bit, is couple of things, and Charlie touched on the hot spots on the mainland. We all know it. We know those states. It's no secret. And in a KITV interview with the lieutenant governor several days ago, or a week ago, with Annalisa, he is set to, uh, or he is lobbying the governor to allow travelers to come from, and he mentioned the states. That's why I was concerned, because he mentioned California, Washington, Oregon, Texas, and New York. That's where he wants to market. Anyone that gets a second vaccination after a 12-day wait can travel without a pretest or quarantine. And
I'm sorry, man, I missed the first part. Who is lobbying the governor?
the lieutenant governor.
Oh,
The lieutenant governor was on KITV, and he said that he wants to start this for inter-island travelers on February 15th, and for trans-Pacific travelers coming to Hawaii a month later, which would be March 15th. And then Representative or House Speaker Psyche has a bill that he's introduced that dropped on the 27th.
1286, 1276, we're getting, a lot of emails and messages from Kauai on that.
So I
I
guess
think
my
somebody
question-
referenced it in Civil Beat's chat today as well.
Yeah, I normally, the only reason I stopped and listened to Civil Beat because you were on it. So I'm not, no, seriously, and I just don't have time. So, but I guess my question is, as the Senate, the House, the legislature, is there a concern about premature opening or premature reducing the requirements for travel as because of what's happening on the mainland, because there's so many unknowns, and the fact that we don't know if a vaccinated person can still pass on the virus? Is there talk about that at the Capitol outside of the Lieutenant Governor's office?
I haven't heard much talk about it. Right now the thing that's dominating the conversations is just the deficit of the budget. How or what is the path forward, and then the effective, efficient rollout of the vaccination, and that if we can get the vaccination rollout done effectively, the hope is that that would be the mechanism that would help open up the economy in a safer way to the residents. But certainly, even if it's not being talked about directly, simply by talking about the deficit and the budget, you're still talking about that, right? Because the only way you erase the deficit is to have more economic activity.
Question, Ron. This was brought up by one of our viewers. I guess the lieutenant governor had mentioned that he, is welcoming the travel from South Korea with the pretest and no quarantine coming into Hawaii. But now there's this, and it was on Reuters regarding the President Biden signing that order, stating that all international travel coming into the U.S. shall require the pretest as well as quarantine. And I know that there's still some things pending. I know he signed it, I think it was on the early part of January. Does the lieutenant governor knows that that's in play right now, where his wants of allowing South Korea to come into Hawaii will kind of be stymied because of what the president is signing? Does he know that, or this is all new? You think this is all new to them?
Well, things are moving quickly in Washington, D.C., but, Mel certainly knows, as the old Ron Kouchi knows, in the hierarchy, the feds rule the state rules the county, and the county gets stuck with everything because they don't rule anybody. And if there is a federal mandate or a federal prohibition, then we're required to comply with that. The airport is still under the jurisdiction of the FAA. So, there wouldn't be anything that we can do about it. Conversely, when we were with the very low rates before the 4th of July, Japan just said anybody from the US because the US was so hot. So even though we showed, like, look at our almost zero rate in Hawaii, we were not permitted to fly into Japan. It was the national policy. The same thing would be in effect, but I'm encouraged because, the president has made mask wearing mandatory on all of the flights. So there's no question about whether you should or shouldn't be wearing a mask if you're on the plane. And we've got clearer guidance. And again, in any of the foreign travel bans, the federal ban would apply to any of the state of Hawaii arrivals.
The only thing that I did see in that Rauda's report was the fact of that quarantine period. And I know that's been a real stickler with the lieutenant governor of issuing the quarantines, making it mandatory. And knowing that, seeing how this whole thing has evolved with regards to testing to get away from the quarantine period. So I thank you for answering that. Thank you.
But the other thing, I think this would be a good time, excuse me, to interject that I was on the council right after Hurricane Eva hit Kauai in '83. It was at the November of '82, and I was there as a chairman when Iniki hit. And you identified the disaster. We saw what the problem was, and then we started making plans to rebuild. And it took some time, but you had your focus, and everybody could pull together and move in one direction. And really, what you're talking about, in the last two subjects is the real conundrum of dealing with the coronavirus. If you want to get your economy better, it will absolutely have an adverse effect on best public health and safety. And when you put the best health and safety practices in place, it will adversely affect your economy. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just how much. And there's no threading the needle, and there's no finding the sweet spot. They have an, inverse reaction to each other. And I have never been confronted with a situation where, there wasn't a way to find, if not win-win, at least incorporate concerns that other people have and, get to some level of middle ground. And this disease makes you make choices in the absolute. And that is what has made this incredibly difficult. And then you can't see it.
Now, my last question, Mel, I wanted to ask Ron this question if I can. I noticed that you've been coughing tonight. Could it be an adverse reaction to the vaccination shot, or did you have a cough previously?
No, I have an adverse reaction to Zoom. So I've got 3 more halls here sitting at my desk, but doing an hour and a half on Civil Beat and doing a Zoom at 5 o'clock today. And we had all Senate meeting, on Zoom. And, I only have 1/8 Portuguese, so I don't think I have the kind of talking condition I wish I had.
I was gonna say the adverse reaction to the Mel and Charlie show, not to the shot. He was just being politically correct again, Charlie. He was being politically correct.
Plus, I just wind up with a dry throat when you wind up in these many meetings.
Well, I know for me, and it's probably not even necessary, but I find myself when I'm doing a Zoom meeting, and I do quite a few of them, that I find myself talking louder than I would normally talk because I want to make sure my voice gets through the microphone because the mic is a distance away. And that's why I always have my trusty old coffee, because coffee is the best thing, man. It's like liquid halls. For me.
I didn't think about that, but as soon as you said it, I say, yeah, I guess you're probably right. So I'm gonna try to start talking softer until somebody
No,
says, hey, I don't can hear you, brother.
yeah. Hey, Ron, I just going. Now you got me started. I want to go back to the speaker's bill. We did hear back from Jimmy. Actually, Jimmy, when I asked everybody to flood their representatives, and it wasn't just the Kauai people. I asked all of our viewers to flood their reps and senators when we first heard about it. Yet the bill had not dropped, and the vast majority. In fact, you came on our show to address and to share your comments. But the bill has dropped now. Um, Jimmy has made it very clear. D has actually signed on as an introducer. Whether that means anything, I know a lot of people. The fact that you sign on a bill infers that you support it. I wouldn't sign on to a bill if I didn't support it. But that is the vehicle to get the discussion started, so I can understand that. But what is the temperature? We all know that it's no secret, and it's nothing derogatory, but a lot of times the legislature is Oahu centric because the majority of the reps and senators come from Oahu. But what's the temperature for this specific bill? Because when I read the bill, only one island really is affected. Just one island, and it's Kauai. Kauai was the only one to opt out. Kauai is the only one to create a resort bubble and require quarantine until you get your second shot. So this bill is really targeted at only Kauai. So and I don't know, maybe it's too new, maybe it's too early to get that temperature check of your colleagues, but what's the temperature at the Capitol right now regarding that bill?
Well, I would speak for on the Senate side. There hasn't been a lot of, well, nobody's even talked to me about wanting to pass it. Would I be okay? What's going on? So I don't think that, there's much enthusiasm behind the bill in the Senate. The interesting thing on the Senate side, on the Senate leadership, you have myself as the president from Kauai. Then working from the Big Island, Senator Kanuha, who represents Kona. He's the caucus leader. Senator Inouye is the whip from Hilo. And assistant whip is Senator Keith Agaran from Maui, and the majority leader is Senator English from Maui. So we have 5 members on our leadership team who are neighbor island members as we look at what are the priorities of the Senate. And then you've served on the council with Senator Dela Cruz. And you know how often he went out to each of the neighbor islands as a council member when a lot of the Oahu council members didn't really bother coming out and being more active in HSAC. Senator Dela Cruz did as a council member, and he's continued to come out. So the Ways and Means Chair has a great relationship on the neighbor islands. Senator Kidani, as the Ed Chair, the Vice President of the Senate, goes to all of the islands to meet with the teachers because of her jurisdiction. And before that, she was in charge of the capital improvement for the Senate. So even 2 of the Oahu members on the leadership team really have strong ties to the neighbor island. And what was interesting to me is that the speaker wasn't available to speak at the chamber event last week, Thursday. Vice Speaker Mizuno spoke on his behalf, and in his address to the statewide chambers, he talked about the bill, but he also said that we can't have like Mayor Kawakami and Victorino going out and doing their own thing. I think it's important to have a unified policy. So I do believe that in the House, there is some level of concern, that with the high incident of infection on Maui, that Mayor Victorino may be putting in some more stringent policies. And, so while it clearly for now seems to be targeting Kauai, there is a concern that Maui may be doing something different anytime now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Maui, in my opinion, should have really taken some action early on, but that's Maui. My concern is here, Kauai. And Derek has taken a strong stand from day one, and that's the frustration. When you ask some of these leaders at the executive branch, they'll tell you that their Kauai is different. We're lucky because we're small. You know what? That's hogwash. You know that, Ron. I mean, the virus doesn't give a damn if you from a population of a million or 70,000. The virus doesn't care. The virus spreads the same way for everybody. So, I think that the reason why Kauai is as successful as we have been is because of the actions that we took and we continue to take. To remove that authority from our mayor, to me, is dangerous and irresponsible, I think. And I'm hoping that the representatives, I sure hope that the two representatives that haven't spoken yet, Nadine and Dee, will support their island and not support it. But more importantly, is those on Oahu and on Maui and on the Big Island will also oppose this attempt to remove the authorities from the mayor. I don't know. I'm afraid, to be honest, but we just got to wait and see how this thing rolls out.
And it mentioned on Civil Beat, Oahu has had numbers at 70 or less, I think, in 5 of the last 7 days. So, hopefully, they'll be in a better direction. And Maui has had a few clusters, hopefully through the contact tracing, they'll be at a better place. Big Island seems to be stabilized at this point. So I'm just hopeful we're going in the right direction. I'm hopeful the vaccinations will prove to be effective, and that enough people in the general public will feel comfortable enough to make the choice to get vaccinated. For those of you who've been emailing and leaving messages at my office, that it should be a choice. As far as we're concerned in the state government, it is your choice to make. There's no mandatory vaccinations. I think there's some case law that employers may, on the private side, perhaps be able to enforce, a mandatory vaccination if you want to work at their workplace. But we're not going to make it mandatory, but we certainly hope that it will become effective and will, create a much greater layer of security for our community.
There's this thing that still is kind of gnawing at me, and I'm still trying to come to grips with it, and that is, I hear the lieutenant governor every morning, and I kind of understand how he's pitching everything with regards to opening the state up. But yet, from the experts that we've talked to in the past, and you've seen who they are, I have never seen anyone come forward and agree with him as of yet. And I mean, they still hold to their position that things are still, things are still new, and that it worries me that if uh, things do change and things get out of hand. I mean, in your opinion, is the state prepared to tackle whatever it needs to tackle to take care of any major outbreak should it occur? Because I'm looking at just the investigating of the clusters, or just the numbers on Oahu itself. I mean, it's like clockwork. It's like every day it's 50 or more. It never goes down for some reason. And even with all the messaging, it just continued. There's never a day. I mean, I would love to see a day that he goes, oh, 10. Then it's going in the right direction. But it just continually stays in that cadence for some reason.
But if the question is, are we prepared? I am a lot more confident about being prepared
Mhm.
since January 20th than I was on January 19th. At the onset, when Los Angeles and New York City were challenged in bed capacity. The military was here and they have assessed the convention center if need be. So we already have the plans of how to ramp up to deal with a surge. And now I'm confident that we'll have the full support of the federal government behind any effort that we need to undertake. We talk about the beds available on Kauai, but between Hawaii Pacific Health and the state hospitals, they can surge to handle 47, patients in the ICU setting. And so even for Kauai, we're able to ramp up if it starts to go, but we also saw on Lanai, it quickly got to 100. And people have to be shipped to Maui, but as isolated as it was on Maui, the contact tracing was quick. The shutdown of the island was quick, and they were able, in that 2-week period to get everything back under control. Obviously, Kauai or any of the other major islands, you would not be able to as efficiently and effectively shut down and contain everything like they did on Lanai.
I know we have about 5 minutes left, but I've seen this question a couple of times from viewers, and I'm not sure if it's within your purview, but the volcanic action on the Big Island, I'm assuming that the state is prepared for the worst if in fact that thing blows up again.
Yeah, and I think much like the April floods of 2018, the emergency proclamations have rolled over because there is still assistance and asking for federal help. So they'll be ready to deploy. The real question is, what does the Big Island do in another lava flow situation without Harry Kim as civil defense or mayor of the Big Island? Because he's just been the guy there forever. It seems like Mayor Roth has a real good ability to reach out and communicate. He certainly had a very good relationship with his general election opponent, Ikai Kamarza. And so hopefully, that would work. But, we are ready. I saw the news tonight that 7 of the 200 guards people who returned from DC did test positive. People were isolating or quarantining when they returned. So hopefully the strength of the guard is still there, and we'll be ready to assist the Big Island if that happens. In that last 3 minutes that I see on my clock too, Mel, I had assumed there'd have been a lot of questions about Polihali and the bill that's scheduled to be heard. I got on Calm today, and I just want everybody to know, if you go on a county beach, there is a provision in the county ordinance that you can drive your vehicle on the beach to drop your material off, then bring your vehicle back, park it, and walk back to your camping site or your picnic site. There has never been any ability to drive on a state beach. State park rules have always said driving on a state beach is illegal. So this bill is not taking anything away from you that you had before. Now, the LNR has been understaffed, and so if you didn't get a ticket when you did it, you're fortunate that we don't have enough people out there to issue the citation that you should have received. In the case of what Representative Morikawa is trying to do is to say, for those of you who are responsible users, maybe a permitting system might be a way to ensure that you can continue to use Polihali. What was the biggest concern is when we did have that 1,000 people that one weekend and all those pictures went viral, DLNR's response was to shut Polihali down. And it's an administrative action, and the legislature cannot do anything about the shutdown they impose. So we're trying to find a path to ensure that Polihali doesn't close. Now, there's no identified fee for the permit. So as the bill moves through, if it's too high, then maybe the bill shouldn't continue moving. If the rules seem too onerous, maybe the bill shouldn't move. But what this bill is forcing DLNR to do is come to the table with the legislature and listen to the concerns that the community has and how upset they were at the decision to shut Polyholly down without any public input. But we're not trying to take anything away from you that you enjoyed in the past. That simply is not factually correct. Some of the people who've called me have said, no, there's a loophole. There's no loophole. There's a provision on county beaches that allow it, state beaches do not. And that's simply the facts. And I was hoping to try to get the correct information out to everybody so that they can use this vehicle to make sure that we can all continue to enjoy Polyholly, and that those who are responsible users are not punished by the actions of those who have not done it the right way.
One last question. I just had it just came over, but are you familiar with any or have heard of any reports of clusters at Hawaiian Airlines? Did you hear anything like that?
No, and I've been reading, some of that social media or emails and concerns about who's coming in and how the numbers are accurately reported. And I was on that Civil Beach Cafe till 3:30. The chamber had Peter Ingram, the CEO for Hawaiian Airlines, on a talk story from 3 to 4. So when I got on, I didn't hear anybody ask him. Didn't hear him address that. So I don't have any specific information regarding that. And that's certainly not been in the chatter around the Capitol.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Senate President Kouchi, it's 8:01. Did you have any closing thoughts for your constituents, which includes all of us here on Kauai?
No, well, sure. Charlie alluded to it earlier. Dee Morikawa actually was on the news. They showed her getting her shot. So members of the legislature, the staff, and staff includes custodial employees, because they're the ones going in and cleaning everything after we have meetings. But we got our vaccination today. It was a Moderna vaccination. I hear that's a little more painful at times on the second shot. And I know this morning Pfizer was saying in the news reports I read that their vaccination seems to be working against some of the different strains. But anyway, we got the Moderna vaccination. And part of the reason I bring that up is to show how efficient things are on Kauai. 2 weeks ago, I received an email or the Senate clerk, do you have any Kauai residents who are working for legislators? Because their number was going to start coming up on Kauai as early as last week. And Kauai has been going through their tiers and hierarchies a lot quicker. If I was on Kauai, like it was on the interim, I would have had the vaccination already instead of getting it today, because I'm in Honolulu queue. And even with, Pier 2 open since last week and Blaisdell open since Monday, we still don't come up in the line till Thursday. Senator Gabbard chairs our Ag Committee. He's calling me to say the head of the Hawaii Farm Bureau is trying to get his help so that the farmers in the rest of the state can get what Kauai is getting. And I have to explain to Senator Gabbard, Kauai is simply efficiently going through the layers, deploying the vaccination they have gotten to farm workers as critical infrastructure. Kauai is using the same DOH metric to go and as everybody else in the state, but everybody else in the state isn't as far up the ladder as Kauai is. And so they've done a heck of a job. Dr. Merriman, Mayor Kawakami, he immediately opened the convention center for mass vaccination. AVMH, Wilcox, and Mahilona have coordinated to get the Kupuna. We're trying to get it out to pharmacies. And for people who think that we don't know what we're doing, or we're hoarding or messing up, what's really occurring is on Thursday, they tell you how many vaccines you're going to receive on Monday. So 3 weeks ago, we got over 50,000 vaccinations or vaccines that we could deploy. And they set up all these appointments. The following week, we got a little over 30,000. And so when the appointments started canceling, it's because we got almost just over half of what we got the week before. Now, the hard thing for any of these people who schedule is we don't want to waste a single vaccine that gets to Hawaii. And if you don't have an arm to put the shot in, then we'd waste it. And so they schedule the appointments when the shipment is less, it results in some of these cancellations. They say we're going to get a 16% increase, and hopefully they're going to have a more even supply chain with predictability. So those appointments will go better. But I want to assure you that each county is getting their fair share. DOH has a small amount for what they do, but they're being shipped directly to Wilcox, KVMH, Mahilona, other dispensaries. HPH is getting theirs at Pier 2, Queens for theirs at the Blaisdell, and everybody is doing an incredible job working together. And the team on Kauai is still the #1 team in the state of Hawaii. So keep up the good work.
Awesome. We gotta, they gotta figure out a way. Like when you make an appointment with your doctor and somebody cancels, they call the next one and say, hey, can you come in today? Can you come in? We have a cancellation. We got to figure out a way to make that happen, because I'm hearing that they're running out of arms because of the cancellations, they're running out of arms to poke. And there's got to be a backup where they can go down a list and say, hey, we got a cancellation. Can you be here in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever? Anyway.
The other thing that HPH has made clear is if they ever were in that situation at the end of the day, they would look at the volunteers who are present. And if somebody had not been vaccinated, then they would offer the vaccination to them. If they get in toward the end of the day and that happens, they're currently, since today, they stopped the practice of vaccinating the caregiver and just do the 75 and older. If you have someone who's bringing, somebody there and they had it sitting, they would then ask them to do that. I know that's the policy that, Queens and HPH are instituting at the Blaisdell and Pier 2, but those are large operations and it includes parking attendants or security that's hired and, a whole host of people in the operation. But so, that's what they would do now. I haven't really heard that Kauai had run into that problem and had been going through it, but I would suspect, something similar would occur. But again, right now, things have been going well on Kauai. And then, Rembis running the Maui hospital, and the complaining and giving the impression that they're being shortchanged and everything else. It's certainly not the case, but they just aggressively booked the appointments and unfortunately, got less than they expected.
I did get confirmation today from HPH or HHSC. Who's the HHSC, right? Mahilona and
that's the Stephanie Iona one, HHSC.
The one Mahilona and KVMH. Anyway, whoever that is, I got all those acronyms mixed up. But anyway, it was confirmed to me today that on Kauai there was absolutely no dosages wasted. 0 doses wasted. So anyway, thank you, sir. Charles.
Well, I'd first like to say thank you to our Senate President. Thank you for coming on tonight. With regards to those extra dosages, if you see me walking around fully swollen, I have volunteered to take up whatever extra dosages you have. I'm not gonna let them go waste. You can poke me 12 times, no matter. But I'm gonna be glowing with envy after a while. So just be careful. I'd like to say thank you to all of our viewers tonight. It was a very nice talk story time. I know we couldn't get to everything. I know sometimes we cannot appease everyone, but we try our best to get the information to you. Thank you to our Senate President, who not only thinks about Kauai, but thinks about all the islands, because we are in some really tough times, and it's going to take some collaboration on all sides to figure out uh, how we're gonna figure our way through. It's almost like the ocean, where the ocean level just dropped and we got nothing but reef in front of us. We're trying to look for that pathway to get the most water that we can take our boats through. So we're hoping and praying that we all pull together. Um, and I just like to again say thank you very much to our Senate President, to our Representative Jimmy Tokioka, for coming on earlier. So thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Senate President Kouchi. I did want a real quick food for thought on the driving on the beach bill. I was talking to Charlie earlier today, and I said, if you require the person to drive to their fishing spot, unload, and drive off, and then they got to go back at the truck, drive back on, and load and drive off, that's 4 trips across the sand. If you allow them to drive on the beach, leave the truck, fish, load up, and leave, that's 2 trips on the sand. Just food for thought. Just food for thought.
Here's another food for thought. I'm gonna drive 2 miles down the beach, drop everything off, take my car back to the parking lot, and walk 2 miles. Now I don't know who would volunteer to walk 2 miles to go get a car for come, because
And then you walk 2 miles back and all your fishing gear stolen.
Wow, boy, this sounds like a whole nother show with
Yeah.
Representative Morikawa as your honored guest.
Yeah, we may have to do that. We got a ton of messages today. But anyway.
And
Ron, thank you very much.
I promise I was going to bring this up, but I don't know if you saw some of the newer studies that shown that now about those new type of swabs they discovered in China. They discovered, and I saw them on Facebook where I said, "Don't say it," and I said, and the reason I'm laughing because it's the Okole, they swab. They say they found a virus in the Okole, and can you imagine, Ron, driving through one drive-through, we'll get one check and sneaking your Okole out the window.
Every time I think we can go through a whole show without something like that, he proves me wrong every night.
Now, the only thing that I'm going to sign off with a smile on my face is that I'm in my office, so I'm not going to get scolded from Joy. But I'm already picturing what Stephanie and waiting for Charlie when we turn off the screen. And I see those big wooden spoon right now.
Well, in one hand, and in the other hand, the frying pan. It's coming. All right. Well, Ron, stay safe up there. Thank you for your good work. Please share our aloha to all of your colleagues up there, and we appreciate what you guys do. Tomorrow night, Feel Good Friday, guys. We got papayas. Hey, and let me just say this. For those of you that cringe when you hear papayas, Judge Sung's wife runs papayas now.
Woo.
It's not the hippie store that everybody thinks it is. He's got
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Papayas is a great place, but the stigma is listen, she's gonna surprise you guys tomorrow night. But anyway, we got papayas, we got Kool-Aid's, and we got Cocaine Museum. Feel Good Friday. Join us at 7:00, guys.
Hey Mel.
Oh,
Mel.
love you guys. Hey.
I just gotta tell Ron one thing. Stephanie getting ready to whack me with one wooden spoon. And guess whose name's on the wooden spoon? Ron Kouchi.
And the frying pan.
On that note, I'm telling you, I'm leaving this conversation.
We see you guys tomorrow night. God bless. We love you guys. Aloha.
Aloha.